Aston's involved in the Young Driver Award, I would say for really two key reasons. First is obvious, I think, which is in over 106 years Aston Martin is sort of born and lived in motorsport, and you go right back to the origin of the name of Lionel Martin racing up Aston Hill, and since then our whole history has been intrinsically related to our participation in motorsport. And the other is that we have a big passion for development of talent. So you bring those two together and you bring it in the context of the award, looking for great new racing talent. It fits perfectly. We're the only truly British car company. We utilize technology which you can take from road to track and track to road. In the promotion of great British engineering, particularly around things like Formula One, those are all very good, but you need to resonance that. You need to connect all of those dots together. And there's no better way of doing that than through somebody like Lewis Hamilton. And given that to be true, therefore, you need to think about the next Lewis and the next Lewis and the next Lewis. It's really important that we have great British drivers. Naturally, Aston to this point has had its own driver development programs, and if you go back a little further, Darren Turner. So we've developed drivers by ourselves. And we needed to do that because as we've opened up the number of events that we take part in, whether that be Super GT in Japan or a little bit in Formula One, we've recently announced to be in Hypercar, in the DTM series. There's a plethora of activities. Then obviously we've needed to develop our own talent. However, what the award brings us is probably a better structured way of doing that. Basically, this really helps us to focus on individuals that really look like they can make it from different perspectives, and different perspectives is always a much more successful way of identifying talent. Aston is a small family. It's very protective of that family. It's very difficult to get into that family, but once you're in, we tend to look after our own. And again, I'll point back to Darren Turner as an example of that. You significantly improve the probability of working and racing for Aston by being a part of this award.
I feel like the Aston Martin Autosport BRDC Award is so incredible for British motorsport. I don't think any other country has anything on this level at all. So as a young driver aspiring for a Formula One or a professional racing career, it's a huge stepping stone in the right direction. I was a winner of the award in 1996, and I have to say it was incredible in terms of it gave me the great opportunity of being a professional race driver. It also gave me my first opportunity of driving a Formula One car, which I'm always grateful for. And looking back, I would say without that award in '96, I don't think I would have had the professional career I've enjoyed for all these years. So back in '96, the award was still over 2 days, but the cars were probably a bit more limited in terms of we had a car from the Silverstone Racing School that we could drive, a little caterham, and a Formula 3 car. And now when you look at what the finalists get to drive over the 2 days, so they've got the F2 cars, they have the Aston Martin GT3 car and the LMP3 car. So altogether they've got a mix of different things to drive that will really challenge each of the drivers to adapt very quickly and also to try and find the limit in a very sort of short period of time. Plus they have the simulation program to go through and the fitness training. So yeah, it's moved on a great deal, and there's a lot more detail involved with analysing the performance of each of the drivers, and the judging has certainly gone up a different level as well. Obviously most of the 2 days is about what performance they can gain out of the F2 car, but in a way for the judges to really understand how good the drivers are at adapting and finding the limit very quickly, you've got to mix it up with some different cars. So having the LMP3 car is a big difference, but it's still sort of akin to a single-seater. The big difference is the Aston Martin GT3 car. For some of the drivers, they've never driven a car with a roof over their heads, and certainly not without that sort of weight that a GT3 car has. So seeing how they get into the cars, seeing how they adapt very quickly to what the performance window of that car is very useful for the judging process. I have to say the 4 drivers that we had this year were incredible. The performance they put in over the 2 days at Silverstone, and obviously what they did in the simulation and also the fitness training was really impressive to see. I think they pushed each other really hard to find the maximum out of themselves and obviously against each other. So yeah, really fun to see, and I think it made it quite difficult for the judges to really pick out the differences between each of the drivers.